This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
Hello and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about draft FPL. I am Dom Crofts. I hope you are well, and I hope that Game Week 11 was as successful as you could possibly expect it to be, with wins aplenty, points aplenty, and success aplenty for you and your draft team. Coming up, we're going to take a whistle-stop look back at Game Week 11 and flag a few of our wins in the waivers, but then we're going to be talking underlying statistics, the underlying statistics from the first 11 game weeks. What can we learn from the story so far, and how can we use that information to improve our chances in our draft leagues going forward? That's all to come, but before we do any of that, it's our weekly plea from me to you to please like and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. It's the best way to ensure you never miss an episode. Please leave us a 5-star review. It takes literally no time at all. I mean, come on. Just please pull your finger out. Quick 5-star review. Maybe a couple of nice words as well. That would be good if you don't mind. And of course, if you watch us here on YouTube, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. But enough about that. Let's take a look at Game Week 11 and the winners and losers from the players that we picked last week on the show. From the Spurs and Manchester United game, it was a big success for us. We recommended Destiny Udogie, who walked away with a 4-point return. Richarlison, who got a 6-point return. Amad Diallo, who finished the game week with 8 points. And Casemiro, who got 5 points. In the Everton-Fulham game, we flagged Michael Keane, a particularly good win for us and you if you picked him up on the waivers. 15 points for the former Burnley man. Fulham assets failed to return outside of Ryan Sessegnon, who walked away with a 4-pointer. Callum Wilson was on target in the win for West Ham over Burnley. He got a 7-point return. Zion Fleming also returned in that game. Dan Ballard was our pick from Sunderland, and he finished the game week with 10 points. Both our Arsenal picks returned. Leo Trossard with a 9-pointer and Mikel Merino with a 5-pointer. It was points aplenty from our Chelsea picks, with Wesley Fofana finishing with 6 points, Malo Gusto getting 15 points, and Alejandro Garnacho ending the game week with 11 points. Marshall Munetzi was our pick from Wolves. He did not play under Wolves' caretaker manager. And in the Villa-Bournemouth game, Emi Buendia ended the game week with an 11-point return. Tyler Adams did not hit DEFCON for Bournemouth, so he finished with just 2 points. But there was more success in the Brentford-Newcastle game, with Kevin Schade finishing the game week with 8 points. Dango Ouattara getting 4 points. Bruno Guimaraes getting 4 points as well. Lewis Hall was our recommendation at the back for Newcastle, but not for last week. That was more one for the future, and it's a pick that has been solidified now with the sending off of Dan Burn in that game. Daichi Kamada and Diego Gomez both got 3 points in the 0-0 draw between Crystal Palace and Brighton. And then the Nottingham Forest and Leeds and Manchester City and Liverpool games failed to spark many returns. Nicolo Savona getting 2 points and Ryan Gravenberch getting 2 points for Liverpool. So 20 of our 35 picks returned, an average of 4.2 points per player of those players that we recommended on the waivers last week. So hopefully you picked up some of the more successful ones. But now it's time to take a look at some underlying statistics. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of the XG, the XGC, and the XPoints, let's take a look at the league table as it stands after the first 11 weeks. And Arsenal remain top of the tree, as they were after game week 7 when we last did this show. They were 1 point clear at that point of Liverpool. Now they are 4 points clear of Manchester City, and Liverpool are down in 8th place. City are in 2nd. Chelsea have moved up to 3rd. They're just 6 points off top spot. And look at the biggest overachievers in that top half of the table. In 4th place, the Black Cats, Sunderland, who are 4th in the league, and they have the 4th best defense, having conceded just 10 goals so far this season. In the bottom half of the table, Newcastle United are the story, really. They're down in 14th place at the moment. They are just 2 points off the relegation zone, the biggest underachievers in the Premier League so far this season. Nottingham Forest and West Ham are on the up. You can see there from the form guide that they've got 3 wins between them over the last couple of weeks. Burnley and Leeds United beginning to slide, and Fulham having a really difficult start to the season. 4 defeats in their last 5, and a big game coming up for them next against Aston Villa. That's the league table, but what about the league table based on XG? Well, Chelsea are top for XG in the Premier League right now. They've got the highest XG of all teams with an XG of 23.34. They've scored 21 goals, so they're underperforming that statistic by about 2.3 goals. They have managed that without Cole Palmer, of course, and predominantly without Liam Delap. So they are now getting more firepower back. Now, we're going to look at their next 4 weeks' worth of fixtures coming up. Their next fixture is very appealing indeed, but after that, the fixtures do turn. However, they should have Palmer back. If they continue to create as many chances as they have done, they should be a good option for you on the waivers in terms of their attacking assets. Arsenal are actually second for XG now, 21.06 for them. They're just underachieving that, having scored 20 goals. Crystal Palace were top for XG after the first 7 game weeks. They've dropped to 4th now, but they are the league's biggest underperformers. They've scored 14 goals, but they should have scored around 21 goals. So they're underperforming their XG by 7.03. And look where Brentford are, 7th in the league for XG. And 3 of their last 6 game weeks have seen them hit at least 2.7 XG. So that is an interesting little underlying statistic there for Brentford and could tempt you into making a move for some of their more offensive-minded assets. The bottom half of the XG League, Aston Villa, right down there in 18th place. In 7 of the first 11 game weeks, Villa have failed to create even 1 XG in a match. 7 times. So it's no wonder that Ollie Watkins is struggling in front of goal. And even though they are now making their move and they are in the top half of the table in the actual league table, the underlying statistics suggest that there is still trouble in terms of creativity at Aston Villa. Spurs are the biggest overachievers for XG. They've got 19 goals this season, but the underlying statistics suggest they should have 12.75. So they're overperforming by over 6 goals in front of goal. And Newcastle United are significantly underachieving their XG. They've got 11 goals so far this season from an XG of 14.58. So they're underachieving their XG by 3.5 goals. And that is Alexander Isak's absence biting you on the bum. In terms of expected goals conceded, the best performing teams, well, it was Newcastle at the top of this table after 7 game weeks, but now it is Arsenal. Their expected goals against is 7.77. They are overachieving that, having conceded just 5 goals. Manchester City are second best for XGC, but they are overachieving slightly. They've conceded 8 goals from an expected goals conceded of 11.02. But Brentford, again, who are top half for XG, are also top half for expected goals conceded. They're in the top 4. They have the 4th best defense based on these underlying statistics. They've conceded 17 goals, but based on their underlying statistics, that should be closer to 13. So that is another interesting underlying statistic for Keith Andrews' side. Crystal Palace also worth looking at. They have the 3rd best defensive record in the Premier League right now, but that is some overachievement. They have conceded just 9 goals. They're overachieving their underlying statistics by over 5 goals. Should have conceded nearer to 14 goals. So Palace, another side to watch in terms of their defensive stability. Can they maintain that defensive resilience when the underlying statistics suggest that perhaps they can't? In the bottom half of the table for expected goals conceded, Aston Villa have the joint 4th best defense in the league, having conceded just 10 goals, but the 11th best based on their underlying statistics. Should have conceded more like 15 goals. Liverpool, well, if you wonder what the big problem is with Liverpool, you could look at Florian Wirtz, you could look at Hugo Ekitike, you could look at Alexander Isak, but perhaps it's their backline. They have the 16th worst defense based on their underlying statistics. They've conceded 17, which is pretty much on par with what they should have conceded. They should have conceded 17.51. So Liverpool really struggling at the back. And Bournemouth are underperforming defensively. They've conceded 18 goals so far this season from an XGC of 15.78. So they're underperforming by around 2 goals. Let's take a look at the expected points table then. So this is where the league table should be based on XG and XGC combined. And the top 4 makes interesting reading because Arsenal and Manchester City continue to occupy the top 2 spots. Arsenal are overachieving their points tally by 2.35. They should have around 23 points. Manchester City are also overperforming, but only just 21 points they should have. But look who is in third place, Crystal Palace. They should be in third based on their expected points. And Brentford are up in fifth based on their points. They've got 16 points for the season so far, but they should have closer to 18. So they are significantly underperforming by almost 3 points there, the Bees. And Newcastle United, who of course are 2 points off the relegation zone, in reality should be over 4 points better off. And that would see them settle very comfortably in the top half of the table in 7th place. Bottom half of the table for expected points, and Aston Villa, who are top half, of course, in the Premier League, would be in the relegation zone based on their expected points. They're currently overachieving in terms of points accrued by more than 7 points. Sunderland, of course, are also gunning at the top of the table right now, but they would be 14th based on their underlying stats in terms of their points. They're overachieving by around 5.3 points. And Leeds United are underachieving by 4.49 points. If the XG and the XGC had gone differently for Leeds United, they would be in 11th place. Nottingham Forest, who are, of course, already improving under Sean Dyche, would be 15th based on points. They're underachieving their own tally by 3.35 points. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that defensive assets to target for the next few weeks in draft are these teams. Arsenal, of course, are the top team for expected goals conceded. They conceded 5 goals from an XGC of 7.7. Their defensive assets are next to impossible to get on the waivers. However, it may be worth rolling the dice on one of their left backs because Ricardo Calafiori has played a lot of football already this season. He's gone away on international duty with Italy as well, where he has returned with injuries in the past. Hincapié and Lewis Skelly are battling it out to become the reserve left back, but I do think they will both get minutes. I suspect Hincapié will play more minutes when Eberechi Eze is occupying the left-hand side of Arsenal's attack and not Leo Trossard. I think Calafiori and Trossard come as a pair now, and I suspect that Hincapié and Eze will come as a pair as well. So keep an eye on the injury situation for Ricardo Calafiori because he has had several niggles already during the course of his Arsenal career and some serious injuries before that. Manchester City have the second best XGC, 8 goals conceded from an XGC of 11.02. There should still be some availability on the waivers for their assets. Nico O'Reilly seems to have cemented that left-back spot at the moment ahead of Ryan Ait-Nouri. Núñez is playing well at right-back, and Ruben Diaz has played every single minute so far in the Premier League this season. Newcastle United were top, as I said, for XGC after 7 game weeks. That has dropped off in the resulting few weeks after that, but they are still right up there. They've conceded 14 goals from an XGC of 11.51. Their assets will be available. You've got Malik Thor. Dan Burn was sent off, of course, in the Brentford game, which opens up a chance for Lewis Hall to start in the next game. Unfortunately, the next game is at home to Manchester City. And Tino Livramento won't be far off returning from injury either for the Toon. And Brentford are the surprise story when you look at these underlying statistics from both an offensive and defensive point of view. Defensively, they have the 4th best backline in the Premier League. So they've conceded 17 goals from an XGC of 13.46. There will be lots of availability on the waivers for their assets. Nathan Collins is obviously a bit of a defensive beast when it comes to DEFCON, but Yarmouk is the very best of all Brentford assets for DEFCON right now. Vandenberg and Coyote, other options for you if you want to go there. Chelsea have also got a pretty solid backline. They're 5th best for XGC, 11 goals conceded from an expected goals conceded of 13.67. Good fixtures coming up for them to an extent. Burnley, Leeds and Everton in 3 of their next 5. Wesley Fofana and Marlo Gusto are among the options that would probably still be on the waivers in many leagues. So, Attacking assets to target. Chelsea are top for XG, of course. They have good fixtures coming up. Liam Delap, Esteban Villan, and Alejandro Garnacho. All good options. Garnacho seems to have won that left-hand spot for Chelsea on the left wing. Delap now getting into the team as the central striker, which seems to be bringing the best out of João Pedro. Manchester City, third best for XG. They've got a great run of fixtures coming up with Leeds, Fulham, Sunderland twice, West Ham United, and Nottingham Forest in 6 of their next 8 games. I'll say that again. Leeds United, Fulham, Sunderland twice, West Ham, Forest, all in 6 of their next 8 games. Ryan Cherky and Jeremy Doku should be available in several draft leagues. And Brentford, 7th best attack in the league, based on their XG, 17 goals scored from an XG of 19.68. Kevin Schade and Dango Utara starting to play regularly and do the business regularly for Keith Andrews' side. Arsenal, of course, are another side to target in terms of their attack. Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, Noni Madueke, Gabby Martinelli, and Gabby Jesus, all expected to be involved over the next few weeks. Some of those players could well be in the matchday squad for the North London derby in game week 12 against Spurs. Let's take a look at the top point scorers after the first 11 weeks in FPL, and it's no surprise that Erling Haaland is streets ahead of the rest. He's the first centurion of this FPL season, 102 points for him after the first 11 game weeks. Gabriel, Urian Timber, and Declan Rice mean that 3 Arsenal assets make up the top 5. 5 of the top 10 top point scorers in FPL are currently defenders. Gabriel, Timber, Mark Gahey, Ricardo Calafiori, and Daniel Munoz. And 2 in Caicedo and Rice are defensive midfielders. 11 to 20 assets. Brian Mbeumo is the 11th highest scorer in FPL right now. He's got 60 points, and Manchester United fixtures are particularly appealing coming up. They have Everton in game week 12 and West Ham in game week 14 with a trip to Crystal Palace sandwiched in between that. João Pedro has started to show a little bit more form in front of goal. He was another scorer at the weekend against Wolves. 6 more defenders in positions 11 to 20 in Senesi, Van der Ven, Lacroix, Keane, Chalobah, and Mitchell, and 1 goalkeeper in Robin Roofs. Overall, in the top 20, 1 goalkeeper, 11 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 centre forwards. In terms of XGI, the first 10 players for XGI in FPL right now, well, Erling Haaland is top of the tree again with an expected goal involvement of 11.73. Jean-Philippe Mateta remains second with 8.80, and Bruno Fernandes remains third with 6.42, so no change from game week 7. But Antoine Semenyo was 5th after the first 7 game weeks for XGI. He's now 10th. 4.02 XGI he had after 7 game weeks. 5.09 XGI he has now. So his goal scoring threat has really fallen off a cliff. And look who is in 5th place. It's Thiago of Brentford. 8 goals for him for the season from an XGI of 6.08. So another Brentford story there in the form of their Brazilian centre forward. And just a little player to flag here, Cody Gakpo has 5 returns for the season in 11 game weeks. I mean, there's no guarantee that he's going to start week in, week out, but is he flying under the radar? He's got an XGI of 5.20, which means he is ranked for expected goal involvements. In the second set of 10 here, in 11th place, Iliman Ndiaye has 5 attacking returns from an XGI of 5.02. João Pedro, who we've spoken about, 2.5 XGI he's picked up in his last 2 game weeks. That is hugely contributing to his overall XGI of 4.53. And long may it continue if you are an owner of João Pedro. And Declan Rice is in 20th place. He's got an XGI of 3.56, which is better than Ollie Watkins, Jared Bowen, Hugo Ekitike, and Nick Woltemada, all of whom are curiously absent from the top 20 XGI performers in Fantasy Premier League. So let's take a look at some underlying statistical surprises then. And these are players that you should have in your thoughts in terms of players to maybe waiver out of your side or certainly trade out. Ollie Watkins continues to underwhelm in an Aston Villa shirt. Dropped from the England squad, of course. Has been the suggestion that he's got a bit of an injury niggle. He did play well, to be fair, against Bournemouth in Game Week 11, although he did not return. His expected goals for the season remains 2.5, which is really not good enough for a centre forward in a team as good as Aston Villa. His XGI slightly better, 2.78. He's ranked 21st for XG right now. So his goal tally is not looking like it's going to be improving anytime soon. So if you picked him up on draft night as your first pick, you have every right to be concerned. Phil Foden has been excellent for Manchester City of late, but he's not been delivering the goals or the assists in the Premier League. 1.2 XG for the season in the Prem, 2.81 XGI. He's ranked 39th for XGI overall. Then we got a couple of players who are doing really well in front of goal, but we have to ask the question, is it sustainable? Moises Caicedo of Chelsea has 4 attacking returns for the season from an XGI of just 1.3. Ryan Gravenberch has even more, 5 attacking returns for him from an XGI of 1.1. Can you expect him to maintain that? I suspect not. And Jared Bowen, another player that many managers would have made their first pick on draft night, has really, really underwhelmed. 1.41 XG for the season. He's not the highest West Ham player for XG. Far from it, in fact. He's the 4th highest behind the likes of Callum Wilson and Lucas Paquetá. He's got 2.7 XGI for the season. Overall for XG, Jared Bowen ranks 59th in the game. So he really has struggled in front of goal this season. Will it get better under Nuno? I guess we'll find out in the next few weeks. Let's take a look at the next few weeks then, the next 4 game weeks to be precise. And there is a mixed bag of fixtures coming up. Liverpool have a chance to get back into the title race, maybe at a push. They've certainly got some very tempting fixtures. Nottingham Forest at Anfield next, then a trip to West Ham, Sunderland at home, and then a game away at Leeds. 4 fixtures that you'd have to look at and go, you'd expect them to get maximum points out of them. Manchester United have improved in recent weeks under Ruben Amorim. They've got a home game against Everton next, then a difficult game against Crystal Palace before a home match against West Ham and a trip to Wolves, who by then will be under the management, of course, of Rob Edwards. And Bournemouth fixtures are decent as well. Home game against West Ham in game week 12, a trip to Sunderland, and then home games against Everton and Chelsea. Crystal Palace make up the top 4 for best fixtures. They've got a game away at Wolves next, then a home game against Manchester United, a trip to Burnley, and a trip to Fulham. As for the bottom half of the table, tricky fixture run for West Ham. Nuno has improved things in recent weeks, but is it about to take a turn for the worse? They go to Bournemouth next, then they have that home game against Liverpool, then they go to Old Trafford and the Amex. Sunderland have had this fantastic start to the season, but they've got some challenges coming up. A game at Fulham next, which is more than winnable, really, given the form they showed against Arsenal in game week 11. Then they have a home game against Bournemouth, and they have looked good at the Stadium of Light, but then it's trips to Liverpool and Manchester City, and then Chelsea, Burnley away next. Arsenal at home is tough in game week 13. A trip to Leeds, not too bad, and a trip to Bournemouth, tricky to say the least. And we've talked about Brentford a lot on this pod. Let's take a look at their next 4 fixtures, because defensively and offensively, we have sung their praises. They go to Brighton next, where you can certainly see them scoring. Then they have a home game against Burnley, which looks very good for the likes of Dango Ouattara and Kevin Schade. A trip to Arsenal is not going to be easy, and then a trip to Spurs. So tricky fixtures indeed after the next couple of weeks for Brentford. So there are some underlying statistics for you to wrap your head around as we go into this fairly tedious international break. Your to-do list for the international break is to keep an eye on those matches for any injuries that may impact your squad or indeed your targets on the waivers ahead of game week 12. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to watch international football. You've got better things to do, but at the very least, keep an eye on the results and the news stories that come out of those results for any injuries. And of course, more important than any of that, it's time for you to do us a favor. Follow us on our socials. We're on X and Instagram at FPL Draft Zone. We're also on Blue Sky at FPLDraftZone.bsky.social. Please, if you're watching us on this YouTube channel, like and subscribe. So like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're more an audio kind of person and you listen to us on a podcast platform of your choosing, please, please, please take 30 seconds from your time to give us a 5-star review and leave a few kind words. I know I bang on about it, but it really is important for the pod. It helps get more eyes on this pod, and that will allow us to continue to do it. So that is it for this whistle-stop episode in the international break of the FPL Draft Zone. I hope it has been of some use to you. We will be back next week with a full preview ahead of Game Week 12 after some of those international games have been concluded. But until next time, all that's left for me to do is to say good luck, enjoy the break, and bye for now.